Hello, Jenny. Welcome. It's been a long time. I cannot hear you, but yeah, because you've turned your mic off.
Muted. Yes, it's good to see you again. And
Yes.
Cavan, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
What a beautiful
Jenny,
background you
Cavan.
have.
Yes, I was just telling Gabby about that. This is my target. This is the house I'm working towards.
Nice. I like your goal setting. Very vision board do.
Well, I announce it to the world too, because clearly I don't usually see this background. It's usually my audience see it, right? So hold me accountable.
Yeah,
Believe
absolutely.
it. Achieve it.
So what we'll do is I'm going to start the intro right away, and this is going to leave some additional minutes for the people who want to join the meeting. So let's get started. I start sharing my screen here. So here we are. So this workshop is an initiative of Ikare Longevity, which is the first community of people who wants to live 100 years in good health and who act upon this goal. So in the last decade, the recent breakthroughs in preventative medicine and living longer and healthier make this not a pipe dream anymore, but an ambitious yet attainable, reachable goal. And so basically what we do is create this community and try to bring as many people on board as possible with free do-it-yourself tips and tricks and practical strategies to help people live longer and healthier. So again, this is 100% free, and we are trying to help them as much as possible do this. And for the people who want to go beyond this and want to get serious about this and are looking for proactive assistance from experts in longevity, we have a service called Ikare.ai, which pairs each patient with a medical doctor with expertise in longevity and also a health coach to help patients implement the doctor's recommendations into persistent habits. Because most of the time, we know what we have to do in order to live healthier and longer, but it's difficult to implement it in our lives and make it a consistent habit. So Ikare.ai works as a fitness fitness gym where we provide the machines, we provide the advice, but it's up to the patients to go there to be disciplined and to apply those guidelines to themselves. So that being said, let's get to the next step where Cavan Chan, who is a functional medicine health coach, and Cavan, you have so many degrees. I will let you introduce yourself and your competencies. But overall, you're going to discuss about how our gut health affects our mental health and our sleep. So that being said, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Hi, everybody. How's it going there? So Gabriel said that I actually have a lot of title. I'm not so sure I have that many title. I'll always just call myself, I am a sleep and performance coach. I often work with people who are already constantly tired, having headache, unmotivated, and unable to focus, having sleep disturbance, such as insomnia, to achieve that goal. And for many of them is really trying to get a better night of rest. And many have been to the doctor and specialist, and yet they can't find a good solutions, really. So it's really my job to help them to find a sustainable lifestyle modifications so they can achieve their goal, maybe go to sleep, maybe actually don't have brain fog, or actually maybe just focusing at work and enjoy life. That's sort of what I do. And I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe any drugs. Most of the things I do is lifestyle modifications, okay? So without further ado, let me kind of go into today's conversations. Let me try to share here.
Good.
You guys are seeing that
screen.
well?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So today's conversation is on trusting your gut and how your gut health is actually affecting your mental health and sleep. Now, I'm trying to condense everything into about 30 minutes or so. We're trying to make it as palatable as I can, and I'm not going to use a lot of those fancy words per se. So if you are looking for those physician type work, that's not going to be the case over here. All right, so let's just go right into it. Now, this is more like a self-awareness conversations, really. For you, just look into the mirror or maybe just listen to what I'm saying right now and just think if you are experiencing bloating, constipation, diarrhea, rapid gain weight or lose weight, unintentionally, more specifically, fatigue, sleep disturbance, eczema or some type of skin irritations, food intolerant, or sugar or salty craving food. If you're experiencing all those, it is likely that is something a little imbalanced with your gut. Now, I'm not saying that that is going to kill you the next day, but if you don't pay attention to them, it's not going to be a very healthy life that you'll be living, or you're actually allowing it to exacerbate into something much bigger, much further down the line, okay? Because this just doesn't just impact your mental health, but it impacts your entire immune system in your body, hormonal level as well, and of course, some other diseases. As a matter of fact, I literally just signed up to this course, and that actually highlight gut health is related to cancer as well. Now, I don't have those study with me in here, but if you just go on Google, you'll be able to find plenty of information about that already. So that was actually a very recent study as well. It was from Australia, okay? And today, this is the conversation that we're going to be talking about. So when we talk about gut health, what exactly is gut health, right? Where is it, right? That's number one. Number two is gut and brain axis. What is it? And how is that related to our mood? So the connections of it. And then we're going to start going into how gut health is affecting your sleep quality. And then hopefully at the end, I want to empower you with something that you can do. It's an actions that you can work on to get better sleep or manage your wellness or stress better, okay? Now, Hippocrates said that like 2,500 years ago, all disease begins in the gut. My man, I think this gentleman over here, they say something right. 2,500 years ago, and I think that he is a lot smarter than we are for the last 2,500 years, to be honest. And now we just come out with a lot of study to highlight what he said was correct. Okay. Go into what exactly is the digestive tract, right? This is a chart. And I think most people are forgetting that gut health actually starts in the mouth. It ends in the anus, okay? It's a long track. It's a very long track. And most people think gut health is right here. And when they say right here, they talk about is the stomach. And the problem is they think the stomach is where they absorb nutrients. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The stomach is actually helping to break down the nutrients. Where it's being absorbed is actually in your small intestines and some in the mouth, of course, if that's carbohydrates. So your entire digestive tract covered from the mouth, esophagus, and then your stomach, and then your pancreas and all the other organs. And then you go into the most important part, which is the small intestines, where you absorb everything, and also supposed to be very sterile. This is actually very important. And then you go to the big intestines, and that is where the bugs happens. And then you excrete it out, okay? Entire tract has a lot of nerve ending. As a matter of fact, it's the second most amount of nerve endings you will find outside of your head. So outside your head, then it goes straight into your tummy, well, your gut area. That is where you have a lot of nerve ending. It's about 30 to 40 trillion bacteria lives in there. And this number kind of give you like a overview. You might have 37 trillion cells in your body, but you actually have more than 100 trillion microbes entire body. Now, 30 to 40 is in the in your gut area, your entire gut tract, GI tract, but at the same time, you have the rest all over your body. So bacteria doesn't just happen to be in your gut, it happens to be everywhere around your body as well. Okay. They even found microbiomes in lung and other locations as well. So let's just go zoom in a little bit more. Instead of the entire GI tract, we start going into just in here, in this particular area, right? What it happens. That's what we call the gut microbiota, which is the inner ecosystem within your tummy area. And it has bacteria, fungus, virus, and microbes. Yes, we do have fungus, we do have virus in there. They are all kind of important to us. We can't say that one is much more important than the other. Of course, scientists are working it out right now. What is the perfect ecosystem? But it is hard to imagine that even twins have different microbiomes. Literally, two identical twins would have two separate sets of microbiomes. Either one person just pick things up from the floor and put it in the mouth, that person will already have different microbiomes than the twins next to him or her that is eating a cake. Completely different, already completely different right there. And the crucial roles that this type of microbiomes actually helping us is digesting food, absorbing nutrients, supporting our immune system, protecting ourselves from the viruses out there, and also protecting our brains as well. So actually, it has a lot of functions in there. Sorry, that was one question already. Sorry, Jenny, right?
You can answer it now or at the end. I didn't mean to disrupt. Don't
worry. I think we're gonna get to the next page.
Oh, perfect.
That question actually come into the next page. Apologize that.
Cavan, I think the best is for you to do the presentation because many of the questions will already have answers in your presentation. So it's going to make sense to keep them for the end.
I'll go straight ahead. Okay. So now we talked about the digestive tract, the sort of like the building block, what type of organs, environment we have. Now we go inside of the GI tract. So the gut lining is actually the most interesting part about this GI tract. Why, right? Because this EEC cells is particularly interesting. I actually circled it for you guys to see. You see that on the right side, it actually mentioned that is a new, on my side it's a little small. It's a neural functions. And the left side, it says endocrine functions. So it's anterior endocrine cells, what we call EEC cells. It has two functions in this cell. This cells can produce hormone, number one, but it can actually produce and conduct neurotransmitter, number two. By the way, for the people who are not biologist major, one is very fast communication and one is very slow communication. Very fast is the neurotransmitter. 1 second, you actually communicate with 120 meters away. Very fast. It's all the neurons. It's electric pulse, okay? When Hormonal, that means it's chemical messenger. It's very slow within the system. So there are two separate systems, but then a same cell can do two functions. Now, this is not the first place that it actually can do that. Your pineal gland has it, adrenal gland has it, your hypothalamus has it as well. So there are other places that actually have this type of particular cells. But don't forget, this might actually be the only place that this tract has this type of cell where food comes in. What that actually means is the following. That's a lot of external viruses, bacteria that is interacting with the cell, because the moment you put food in your mouth, or if you actually just breathe through your mouth, that means viruses are going straight in your esophagus, going into your lung, going straight through, all the way potentially in the stomach. But I also mentioned that your digestive system starts in the mouth. That means this particular cell is already in your mouth. That means all these bacteria are interacting with that particular cell. And that particular cell becomes the biggest site where this type of environment are interacting with your body. So your body actually don't just interact through your skin, all the other senses, but also when you ingest bacteria, your inner body actually get a sense, wait, oh, what kind of environment, what kind of terrain that we're in today? So your body has a really strong sense of external stimulants from the food, from all the other bacteria that you're interacting within. So that's a very interesting insight. Why is that very interesting insight? Because it's collecting all this data, and it actually has a neural functionality to it. That means it can transmit signal. Well, okay, you have all these connections, you have all this sensor in your tummy. How is it going to transfer to the brain? Very interesting question, isn't it? That's when the gut-brain axis come in. This is actually something that most doctors don't even find out until very, very recently. In the past century or so, we actually start paying more attention called the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve back in the days, we thought it is not very useful, but now we know that is the major highway. It's the major highway where the brain communicating with your gut. We actually collect all those data in the gut earlier from the external environment. Maybe you eat something bad that you need to go to the toilet. Your tummy will communicate to your brain, the tummy is feeling a little sick, a little ill. It's stomach ache. That sensation is going to travel to the brain through the vagus nerve. Just one of the many potential importance that you can think of right now. So it's a bidirectional relationship, and it actually helps us to do all these functions over here. I kind of put this over here so you can actually get a sense for, and I'll kind of go into it in the next page to give you a better understanding, just one simple explanation as well. Think of it this way. Your brain is like the headquarters somewhere out in a very nice office, and your gut is the manufacturing site. Your gut want to eat something, tell the brain send a signal to the person, go get some food. Now you grab the food, put in your mouth, and then you have food in your mouth, right? And then it will say, okay, we have food now in the system, and then we're going to have to start slowing down the digestions so we can absorb the nutrients more effectively at that time. But then at the same time, your EEC cells are actually sending out signals to the headquarters up here. Okay, we're going to have to signal something called a GLP-1. By the way, GLP-1 is what we talked about a lot these days in a drug company, and it's signaling for people to eat less food. Okay, so by the way, if your gut is functioning correctly, it will produce GLP-1 by itself. You don't really need to take drugs. And this is a momentarily increase in the GLP-1, so you don't need to get extra drugs for it, okay? That's how it's supposed to work. And it communicates to the brain, and the brain receives the signal of the GLP-1, and it starts slowing down the appetite. It starts releasing the other hormones out there. Say, okay, you start feeling full. You're not hungry anymore. It starts releasing any other, all the dopamines, the happy hormones, actually make you feel like, oh, I'm happy that I'm eating something. You feel satisfied. All those feelings, all the sensation that come along with it, the neurotransmitters that coming along with it. But at the same time, the brain also sends another signal out saying that, okay, well, your blood sugar needs to start working. Actually, more like the hormone now. It's actually stimulating the insulin hormones and then actually start getting all the sugar and pack it back, right? Because when you actually have a lot of food in the system and you having glucose, you can't have your blood sugar being too high. So your body starts sending out hormones out there and start grabbing the blood sugars and storing it somewhere or using it somewhere. One or the other. You can't have your blood sugar too high. When it's blood sugar too high, your body will send out insulin, grab the sugar, store it in the liver. That's the function. So that's pretty much the perfect system work like that. Well, the only thing is that, well, it doesn't work like that all the time for many people. And that is the issue. When I say not too well, something like this happen, you have a lot of opportunistic bacteria start growing in, it creating a lot of problem for us. What type of problem are we talking about? Mostly is inflammation problem. Okay, so you can see that our system of microbiota and our brain are sort of working hand in hand. Their survival is our health ecosystem. So if this breaks down, our health breaks down. So we are sort of like a venom inside of us right now. We're working with our bacteria. And if we don't take care of them, the not so good bacteria will come in. Now, the opportunistic, not so good bacteria, they like a different terrain. Like they want to have a little bit more of I would say, more alkaline terrain, more acidic terrain. Sorry, not acidic, maybe overly alkaline terrain or overly acidic terrain. That's more like the situations. Or they want to have a terrain that is more stress, more inflammation. They like that type of terrain. And you can see that from some of these bacteria over here, they will highlight that. That's why we do a test called the gut mapping test that allow us to understand, this particular moment we start seeing certain type of opportunistic bacteria over here is dominating. We need them, but we don't need a lot of them. When you have multiple, if you have like 10x more of that particular bacteria that shows up, it's just not a good idea from our perspective, okay? So that's sort of like the relationship that we are dealing with a lot. Now, how is that going to affect our mood, right? This is very important to know. A lot of people think that serotonin might be making in the head. Yes, your serotonin, not melatonin. Your serotonin is making in the head. That's correct. In the head, it has own serotonin, but the majority of our serotonin is actually, this page. The majority of the serotonin is actually in your gut. 95 to 97% of it is actually in your gut. They are the happy hormones that we produce. Now, their existence over there does not necessarily make you particularly happy because they don't exist in the brain. If they're in the brain, then they will make you happy. But if they're over here, they actually stimulate the movement and the bowel movement. So that's actually quite important. But their existence also help to produce more GABA. Now, GABA is actually very important for actually making us nice and calm. If you want to go to sleep, you want them to exist. You want them to have a good amount so you can calm down a little easier as well. And you say, well, it's in the gut. How is it going to go into the brain? Well, guess what? We talked about this earlier. That was the vagus nerve. When you have a good amount of it in your gut, it will communicate to the brain, well, we have a good amount of it, okay, and then it resonates up here, the echo, and that will trigger that happiness or relaxed feeling, okay? And then unhealthy gut. Unhealthy gut will do a lot of things that we don't want to see. Potential symptom, anxiety, depression, cognitive impaired, chronic fatigue, okay? Especially anxiety and depression. There are many cases right now. People are examining the group of depression patients or depression with suicidal thoughts patients. They actually have worse gut lining. They actually have gut dysbiosis. Gut dysbiosis, that means unhealthy gut. Simple way of saying it, okay? So we do know that this type of mood affecting situation happens in on a daily life. And we just haven't got a chance to have a lot of people get this type of test done because gut mapping tests can be quite challenging to get it done. And not many places in Asia has it. But now I know that in the States or in Australia, in Europe is a little bit more common. And we don't have a center over here in Asia. We do that checking, and I actually work with my client that actually do this type of checking, and we send the sample back in the States to get it done correctly. Okay, moving on. Okay, I don't have too much time. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can over here. And now we talk about the mood, right? We talk about mood. This page we talk about when unhealthy gut actually would increase the stress, increase the inflammations, and this type of stress actually will raise cortisol. Cortisol is what we call the stress hormone. Now, it got a bad rap. We need cortisol. It's not like it's bad, but too much is not very good. Uncontrolled amount of it is not very good. Always elevated is not very good because they will cause leaky gut. Now we're going to come back into explain exactly what is leaky gut later on, but it will cause inflammation to say the very least. That is not what we want for our gut, okay? This is where we're going to talk about the gut health and the mood, how they correlate together. Gut, we talk about gut inflammation, increased stress, stress increase cortisol, cortisol increase the productions. The production of the cortisol is actually done in the HPA axis. HPA axis is a fancy way of saying how your brain is forcing your adrenaline gland to produce more adrenaline. Think of it that way. Simple way of saying it. If that chronic productions of cortisol remains when you try to go to sleep, you can kiss goodbye the entire sleep process because you can't actually go to sleep because cortisol, when they are elevated, it suppresses melatonin. When you suppress melatonin, that's your sleep drive. Cortisol high, melatonin low, then you don't sleep or very hard to fall asleep. So now, why is this high? Well, it could be because of the gut inflamed. So your gut inflammation is directly affecting your HPA axis, which means your cortisol goes up, which directly affect your melatonin production. That means the entire triangle is just formed like that. Now, of course, that is just one of the many ways that happens. And I'm not saying that is the only way. There are many ways to get your inflammations in the systems, okay? One of the very many ways. But cortisol high also has a lot of other problems as well. Cortisol high actually go back and decrease the gut movement because your system think, wait, hold on, I'm stressed. If I'm stressed, that means I'm running away from something because that's how the ape stay. That's exactly how it works. When you are stressed, you're probably running from something or you're hunting something. One way or the other, you're not eating, you're not procreating. If you're not doing that, that means, well, I'm going to shut down those systems because your system is really good at conserving energy. So the first thing that is shut down is going to be your HCl. What is HCl? HCl is helping you to digest. Well, if you're elevating cortisol all the time, that means you don't need to digest, or it's going to be very hard for you to digest. And that is going to affect how you're absorbing everything because you eat, but you can't digest. But you stay in your gut. Well, guess what? If you stay there long enough, it's going to trigger another problem. It's going to trigger this problem over here, leaky gut. We talked about when you eat food, you don't have sufficient amount of HCl. That means you can't digest very well. It stays in the gut. When you stay too long in the gut, another problem takes place because it's not supposed to stay there for that long. When you're staying there for too long, there are many things that can go wrong. One is your food that you eat may be pro-inflammatory, like fried food, pro-inflammatory, alcohol, pro-inflammatory. Any other eating too much sugar, that's kind of pro-inflammatory too. So it stays in your gut. When you stay in there for too long, actually your gut lining is being attacked. Your gut lining is being attacked. And as they are being attacked, the integrity of the gut lining is supposed to be tight, very tight together because not supposed to have things going through them, right? Well, if the junction become permeable, things can fly in and out. Remember, inside of the gut wall is your food. Outside of the gut wall is supposed to be sterile. And if things just start leaking through, what's going to happen? Your body wouldn't know what is it leaking through. All it knows is some foreign object leaking through. They need to figure out something. They need to start attacking that food. That's when you start having first inflammation. Second, your body don't even know what it is and start identifying as an object they need to attack. That's when you start having autoimmune disease and variety of different disease. And actually, I put it over here, leaky gut biomarkers in depression and has a suicidal components to it. All right, so I mentioned about gut, I mentioned about your emotions. I also mentioned a little bit about sleep. I'm going to jump directly to this page over here that should give you that triangle that we are looking for. Gut, if you don't take care of it, it has a lot of inflammatory biomarker, like what we call the cytokines, which is the type of protein that promote inflammations. That's not what we want. Great. That is going to spike your cortisol, and that's going to affect your adrenaline. Adrenaline too high is going to affect, of course, melatonin productions, which is your sleep drive hormone. And of course, it's going to ruin your circadian rhythm on top of that. And it's going to deplete other nutrients that actually make you calm. And all those come right back into affecting your sleep. And in Asia, more specifically, a lot of my clients are from here too. From adrenaline, from adrenal area, directly affect sleep. I would say a lot of it. And then from the gut to directly to sleep, not as much, but you will still see a good amount of it. Like a good amount of people saying that, oh, I'm bloated. I can't go to the toilet. I'm constipated quite often. I go to the toilet 2 to 3 times a week. That a good amount of people are doing that as well. Now, all these are problems let's just go into solution, right? What might be some of the things that you can do to prevent that from happening? I would say solution number one, food. What type of food are you eating? Are you eating healthy whole food? Or are you eating food that is with a bunch of chemicals in there, food coloration in there, a lot of sugar in there, a lot of omega-6 oil in there, or seed oil, which is pro-inflammatory type of oil in there? What type of food are you eating? I prefer to eat rainbow whole food if possible. If it doesn't look like the shape that is supposed to exist in, if you don't just grab it from the tree, grow it from the ground, those are very likely to be processed. Okay, if you see a lot of calorie fat at the back, very likely that they are processed as well. So I would prefer my clients to eat a lot of different type of colors from their veggies, legumes, beans, some fruits, not a lot. I have seen people eating too many fruits and it turns out having pre-diabetic because of that, okay? And fermented food, because that will give you a lot of prebiotic. And I specifically highlight what is prebiotic food because it's not as well-known prebiotic food out there. So these are all prebiotic food. They are the food for your microbiome. Okay, so we want to have a good amount of that. Now that's from the food side. And the next one is going to be things that you need to avoid. We talked about that already. Deep fried food and sugars and refined oils, processed food, or alcohol, of course. If you're eating too many spicy food, not so well. And if you are drinking too much coffee, that leads you to not having enough water. That's another issue as well. These are the way that you do need to avoid. Just things that you can avoid by just not eating them. That will be just enough. But then the second one I also find is super important is your stress management. Stress management. In 2015, there is a study coming from Frontier highlighting that stress is it's one of the most important. They say, I think it's number one, but I don't want to quote that as number one, but I think it's probably one of the most important, one of the biggest culprits for gut dysbiosis. And gut dysbiosis is directly has a strong correlation to all kind of disease that you can imagine that is out there, including cancer, which I told you in the very beginning, I was looking at the course in that as well. So outside of stress, chewing slowly, that's very important. Why? Because your carbohydrate get digesting done starting from your mouth. So focus on chewing slowly. That'll be great. Stay hydrated, already talked about. Food intolerant, be careful with that and try to work on that as well. Work on that means trying to find out what they are, actively eliminating it, or actively sorting it out. Why do you have that intolerance? Why it take place, okay? And finally, very specifically handling the stress from an angle of seeing more sun, actually meeting up with friends more. By the way, did you realize that in the green zone or the blue zone, where actually the people live the longest, they always drink wine, they always eat whole food, and they party hell of a lot. Good life, good friends is important, okay? So everything with balance. It's not about having the best kind of diet and you sacrifice your healthy life or healthy way of living, right? Journaling is very important. Having a great partner is very important. Breath work, meditation, yoga, whatever way that you choose to reduce your stress. I think those are super important for you. Last but not least, I say quick actionable steps. Having a morning routine to get a structure in. I say fiber-rich breakfast. Protein-rich breakfast is also very important as well. stay hydrated all the way through. But when you're eating, stop drinking water, please, because when you're eating, you need to retain those HCl for digestions, but don't dilute it as much. Don't drink half a gallon of water before you eat. That's probably a good place to be. Drink that in between meals. That's better. Throughout the day, snacks, legumes, nuts, seeds, those are great. Actively having stress managing practices inserted throughout the day. I actually would like to talk to my client every 1 hour, have like a 5-minute toilet break. Just stand up, walk around, talk to somebody, breath work, close your eyes, visualization, a little shake it off up there in the toilet, all good. So long as you keep that stress out of the way. And in the evening, avoid heavy meal. Heavy meal is one of the good ways to get yourself having a really bad night of sleep, okay? I have data to prove it too on that one. And then practice relaxation before you go to sleep. I tend to do a sleep ritual. When I say ritual, I can expand much more, but just trust me on that. 20 minutes sleep ritual, it will do you a lot of work. It will save you a lot of hours on the bed, rolling around or dreaming too much. It wakes you up, okay? That is not necessarily the most effective and efficient type of sleeping. So these are all the things that you can just walk away and actively work on it. So what I really want to see you is walk away doing some of these work in here to make you feel good. But if you can't take away all the conversation that I talk about, all this dynamic seems to be a little too hard. Just take a look at this page and just act on it.
Thank you very much, Cavan, for the presentation. Very interesting, and a very interesting mix between science and practical insights and things that we can take away and apply in our daily routines. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have some very interesting questions.
Yeah,
Jenny,
I saw that.
Maybe you want to step into this and ask them directly.
Sure, thank you. I'll do them in order. So the first one was, are the enteric nervous system cells actually neurons? Like, do we call them neurons, or what is that cell called?
Neuroendocrine cell, that's what they call it. Yeah.
And does it behave in a similar way to a neuron? You said it's like the electrical signal, so it's super fast. Is that like a synapse?
They have two functions to it.
Uh-huh.
They have two functions to it. So it act like it's like a dual mandate. They send out a signal about pain, so you feel that very quickly. But at the same time, they also promote like hormone, which is very much of a chemical messenger. So it acts relatively slow.
Pain also, is it a pleasure feeling too? Is it just pain, or is it also like wellness?
I would imagine that is a little bit more on the pain side. I don't know about a whole lot of joy coming from the. I can't. If you have a good amount of serotonin in your body over here, you might actually get a little sense of joy easier because it's a very balanced gut health, and then everything is going to be coming from your head. But at the same time, whether you feel happiness a lot, there's a lot of different factors to it, right? Also, the way that you see the world as well, the way how you actively act with every other one, interacting with other people. So it's really hard to say directly coming from the gut. But then the negative side is definitely directly coming from the gut on that end.
Yep. Okay, that kind of leads into my next question then, is like, you know, the food charts, how the government will come out and say, you need to eat this many fruits and this many vegetables and this many things. It's so oversimplified in my opinion. And I think creating so much complexity when it's making people not trust what their body wants to eat. And so it's counterintuitive to actually be like, well, I feel well when I'm eating this, but this thing says I should be drinking milk and doing this or whatever. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm gonna get calcium from my broccoli or whatever.
Right. As a matter of fact, I would have to say that it's almost like a fashion show, right? Different type of food plan or diet is like a fashion show. Oh, this time is keto. Next week is going to be fasting. The following week is going to be about
Well,
something
those
else.
are more trends, I would say,
Yeah.
right? But that
Mhm.
wouldn't be like the manger bouger kind of eat an equalized, balanced
And
diet of these things because everybody is different.
it is true. It is true that I think that it's a bit oversimplified. I would say that I do actually follow a different triangle, believe it or not. I just happen to believe a anti-inflammatory food pyramid a bit more. And that
Okay.
is a lot more veggie oriented at the bottom and is going to be quite a bit less. Actually, if you can just type in anti-inflammatory food pyramid in
Mhm.
Google, it will pop up like that.
Perfect.
So, it just makes sense because a lot of greens, a lot of veggies, a lot of legumes, and then very little bit of carbohydrate or simple carbohydrate be that, and then a good amount of meat.
Mhm.
Oh, protein, sorry, not necessarily just meat.
Complex proteins, full proteins.
Yeah, that's all. It I would just say a good amount of protein or amino acids in that sense because that is a lot of critics on both sides of the wall.
Okay.
Which protein is more um, bioavailable and dense. And I do believe that meat protein does have a little bit more than what I'm looking for. And also, I am not vegetarian. Let's just put it this way. It makes it a lot easier for me to say that in that sense as well. And but I this is actually regardless of whether you are a vegetarian or not. I would say vegetarian or non-vegetarian, most people are not eating enough protein anyway. Most people are not eating enough uh, proteins, and that is actually going to be a critical element on your gut health because glutamate is absolutely required. And it just happens to be one of the essential amino acids that you will need. And where are you going to get the essential amino acids? Well, coming from your food. If you don't eat the right amount of protein, then we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll kind of scan through these too. So you were saying how in order to have that cortisol melatonin balance,
Mm-hmm.
in order to sleep well,
Yeah.
melatonin needs a certain amount of light per day. Now, the blue zones, at least tell me where they are. Is there more or less light from the sun?
Well, when you say light, I presume two things. One, you're probably referring to the vitamin D exposure. Number two, you might be referring to resetting the circadian rhythm for the SCN in the eyes, so it's easier for them to go to sleep. We do need light, but those two other important elements. That's I'm guessing you're referring to them.
Are those like chemically activating the melatonin to release at the appropriate times, or is that more of a mechanism?
I would say that if you're talking about the productions of melatonin, it is not so much related to the light. Well, it is. It will affect the delay of melatonin production if you have too much light, white light at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you have white light in your eyes. Your melatonin production is going to drop to the floor.
Okay, so what if you lived your life in the dark?
If
If there
you
was
live your
no
life,
light?
okay, yeah, interesting you mentioned that because as actually another study, you still have an internal clock.
Right.
you still have an internal clock. The melatonin productions is heavily influenced by light, but there are also another system in case that doesn't work.
Like a backup.
So yeah, like a backup, exactly, like a backup power, so to speak. So I wouldn't say one or the other, but food will actually generate more serotonin for you, and then serotonin is the precursor of melatonin. Okay, well, actually more like tryptophan, and then all the way to melatonin.
Okay, healthy
Yeah,
food
sorry.
produces more serotonin. Or
Sorry, one more time.
Does all food produce serotonin, or just healthy food?
Okay. I would say mostly healthy food. I haven't come across many processed food that can make me a lot of serotonin per se. I guess they might make you a little bit more like a dopamine. It's like, oh, excited.
Because when you were saying like the whole foods, the way that I see those is they're closer to receiving light and photosynthesis and things like that. So there's a relation and a correlation that for me is clear. Like the closer you are to eating that light production and that light storage system, which is a fruit, the healthier
I
that food.
see. I've heard of certain type of theory on that. I am not very much knowledgeable in that particular area, so I can't really comment on that. When I say whole food, I am more specifically talking about food that is more natural per se. There's no chemical in there. That's more like what I'm referring to. Whether they're exposing themselves to a lot of lights, I presume, because if they're plants, they're probably getting more light than any other food source, right? Seeds, green legumes, and beans. Of course, they have they definitely get the exposure to light as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll save the light topics. And I loved how you talked about how the blue zones, they do have that moderation and that joy in their life, and that how big of a component that is, because I do think we digest joy in that way, and it's all a circulation of how we show up and how present we are.
I think the last few words that you say is probably the most important part.
Which is what?
And how present you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as a society kind of move away from that because we have too many of these notifications coming through, and we become depending on noise. We need to have an environment where we feel like we are very important, or we feel like very busy, very needed all the time. Someone is looking for me. It's like that, depending on other people looking for me kind of syndrome. And we actually forgot about being present is actually kind of important. Being present to the moment allow you to momentarily forget about the stress that you're in, and that itself is very important. That itself is very important. Most of the people are very uncomfortable to be silent in a room, and that is the presence that people always or often try to avoid right now. And not having that, or not able to achieve that, that means they are constantly being affected by stress. It's usually coming from here, but then if they're coming from here, that if you remember that HPA axis that I was talking about, then it go directly affecting everywhere. Because I'm constantly experiencing stress, I'm
interpreting
things, I'm judging things, I'm always looking out. It's a natural system. Your body will look for things that to keep you alive. Yep. They don't look for positive to keep you alive. They look for the negative. So
with that though, I think it does. I think in that silence, you can hear your body tell you what it wants, but only in that silence.
Exactly. But then that is the part that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. Like how often you walk around these days seeing people who are not talking to someone, but not on the phone at the same time and just walking.
Or just on the train and looking around. I'm that person.
It is
Like, it's so funny how no one else is like in a moment.
right. And right now, I had so many clients would come and talk to say that, oh, I'm listening to something while I'm taking a shower. I'm like, no, no, you're not listening to anything when you're taking a shower. The only thing that you should be listening to is either you're singing or you're humming or you're listening to your own thoughts.
Mhm.
Because the most
Feeling.
beautiful idea, the most beautiful idea is coming from that moment. When the water hitting your head, you're hearing that sound, or maybe you're singing, or the moment that you're thinking is the realest moment because at that moment you're all at your presence. You're
Yeah.
applying soap, you're washing your hair, and that's very present moment. You probably heard of plenty of people of your friends or even yourself get great ideas from taking a shower in the toilet for some odd reason.
It's a highly sensitive experience. Sensory. There's the sound of it, there's the feel of it, there's the temperature of it. It warms the inside, the outside, or cools it.
Exactly. And that is the moment that I'm talking about. I'm not trying to drag too far away from the conversation that we have today. However, I want to point out all those three systems are interacting with each other.
And I
And
think they also inform the healthy choices of what your specific body needs and wants to operate at an optimum level and to balance hormones and what you're like, to listen to what your gut wants to receive to repair itself.
absolutely, it's like your body trying to communicate with you. And most people are looking away from it
Mm.
or unable to communicate with the body. And most of the time, it's not that you just become that type 2 diabetes. No, it's like a 10-year process. So it can't be like overnight you become a diabetic, right? So it makes zero sense. That has to have some sort of telltale sign. Where is it coming from? The telltale sign, right?
Mm.
That tend to be the part that I think I point out the most with my clients is, oh well, yeah, your high blood pressure is because you're not getting enough sleep. And how many hours of sleep you getting? Oh yeah, and then all of a sudden they tell me other stories. And
Yeah.
how is your gut? You must be suffering from a little bit of that because the way that you're talking about the way that you live, and it sounded like a lot of stress. Oh yeah, I haven't been able to go to the toilet. I only go to the toilet like 3 times a week. I'm like, wait. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden we start uncovering your stress is uncontrolled. Excessive stress is uncontrolled, okay? Not normal stress. We all need stress. And then your gut health is not managed. And then your sleep is chaotic at best. Then your entire building, the foundation is just vanished.
Mm.
So what are we going to work on? I can't just give you a lot of supplements. And this is actually one of the things a lot of people look at supplement like it's like some sort of magic pill. And I say, no, I don't give magic pill. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a system. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking for a solution to come in a pill form, unfortunately, I might not be the person that you want to speak with. I am coming to speak to you on behalf of your body.
I
I'm
love that.
trying to translate. I love to translate what your body is telling you, yet you turn the deaf ear to.
Very cool. One more question. Do we have time for one more? So you said that, oh, sorry, Gabe.
I also have one question, so please go ahead with yours, Jenny,
Yeah,
and
I'll go quick. Hopefully it's a quick answer. Is you said that fruits, too many fruits is not good. Does that have to do with if they're pre-ripe, ripe, or too ripe? Like, is there any difference in the chemicals of a fruit or the nutrients in a fruit due on its ripeness?
When I say that, I probably mean more on when you're eating too much, when you're over consuming the food. Whether it's a good food or bad food, that is not good. Yeah.
Okay. That didn't exactly answer. That's fine. Yeah. All right. What's your question, Gabe?
Yeah. So you've talked briefly about the relationship between pre-diabetes and gut health. And I happen to have pre-diabetes and a mild one, but anyway, it's on the radar for me. And my medical doctor, so we've tried different approaches to try to mitigate those glucose levels and those spikes. And they are working so and so, but I still have some road to go. And my medical doctor told me, so if physical activity is not enough and diet is not enough, then we can try like the microbiome optimization. And he told me about this probiotic of pendulum probiotic. I don't know if you've heard of this, and if you can elaborate a little bit about it, I'm curious to know more about it.
That's the brand name pendulum. That is a very common. Not common. It's actually a very good microbiome. Akkermansia is the one that I actually have one client that's using right now. That person is onset pre-diabetic, not diabetes yet, pre-diabetic, and she is 5'2", less than 100 pounds. So a lot of that conversation is really starting from the gut on that conversation, and on top of that is adrenal, and then on top of that is some sort of conversation that is happening in your thyroid as well. In that case, not in your case, sorry. So for that particular client, is a multi-factors on top of each other. And of course, aging on top of it is not going to make it any easier. But remember that there was one page I showed earlier that was so almost like a report, this page. This patient here, is it this one? No.
No, it was the previous one with the list of different. It was
this one.
This one, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I actually work with one other client, also have something similar to this. I don't think that she says she's pre-type 2 diabetes, but I will be a little surprised if her result with a leaky gut, dysbiosis, and having hormonal issue does not come back with a little bit of an elevated HbA1c. I'll be very surprised. So it does have some impact on that conversation. So in your case, Gabriel, I would say test, don't guess. Instead of going to find out one particular strain of bacteria that will work for you, go with I wouldn't necessarily open up the name of the company, but you can just kind of go with a gut mapping. This is actually a gut mapping report. And in a gut mapping report, you'll be able to have a very interesting insight into where you are in your gut microbiome and what are some of the things that might push your body towards the conversations. And then, of course, take a look at the thyroid conversation as well. I presume that you already checked that out. They have a very strong interactions with each other as well. And then, of course, hormonal Dutch hormonal test that would be very helpful to have as well.
Yeah, that's what my doctor recommended. He said, let's have a full picture of your health and the most important data points. And hormonal balance is one of them. So I have to run some tests. I've done the OGTT. I've done the HOMA-IR. I have a CGM, so everything goes roughly in the same direction, that I'm mildly pre-diabetic, and I have to mitigate that with lifestyle measures, and eventually with some supplements. I'm talking about berberine. I've tested it. It's interesting. It sort of diminishes the variability of the the glucose levels, so they are sort of flat, but they are consistently above 100. I mean, not much, around 100, 105, 103, 98, but anyway, pretty high. And I have tried so many things so far, but I felt excited that there was a new approach, a new option on the table to look at the microbiome and try to optimize that.
Yeah, when you talk about berberine, right? I literally just talked to this client over this past weekend to have her to go on this berberine and black walnut and then wormwood, sorry, because it actually is antibacterial, antifungal, and it actually helped the gut to eliminate those opportunistic bacteria. Now, I wouldn't necessarily just, oh, let me just go and try this tomorrow. No, please don't, because we have no idea what you have in there. We have no idea what you have in there. And not until we have a better idea where you are, and then dialed in your immune system, dialed in your food, and then we're going to go in to do removal. So it's a little bit of a precision act rather than, oh, I'm just going to really take a couple of supplements, because if you have certain type of bacteria in there, if you take certain type of supplements or prebiotic or probiotic, it just wouldn't work. You actually should stop that probiotic first, improve the gut health slightly by just eating food that is right, build up that tolerance a little bit better, and go in for the removal, and do it again. And FODMAP diet could be a conversation that you can actually start looking into. FODMAP, FODMAP, FODMAP diet.
Can you write it down in the chat window? Just to make sure that I copy paste it and I don't misspell. Okay.
This one is a food protocol. I would not recommend you to go on it for too long. Try it for 4 to 8 weeks, see how your body reacts to it. And that will prepare your body in a space for you to go in for that removal that we're talking about.
Interesting.
If that is a need, if that's a need to remove anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'll discuss about this with my medical doctor and try to find the best protocol to test it and to see what difference it makes for me. So
yeah, ask him about a gut map, gut mapping test from diagnostic.
Absolutely.
Solutions.
I'm writing this down also.
I butchered. Oh yeah. 1 second. Diagnostic Solutions. That's the company name. That's the one that I use. Anyway, that's the one I study.
Great. So it's an American company, right? And you send the samples out there, no?
Yep. That's an American company. And then Dutch panel test, you probably heard about that one too. That is a sort of standard, I would say. Trying to figure out if that is any sort of pre-existed sort of born with DNA methylation issue that we need to handle. So if we need to handle that first, and then go into the food map. Like those two are going hand in hand many times.
Great for me. New directions to investigate. Thank you very much for the cues. So thank you very much again. Time is running up. It was a fascinating talk about like a super interesting topic. Thank you very much, Cavan. Thank you very much, Jenny. And the workshop is recorded, and we will be able to share this with you, Cavan, of course, and with the rest of our community members who unfortunately couldn't make it in real time here.
Yeah, no problem. And I often talk about something that is a little lighter than this in my YouTube channel and on IG. And usually I only would go that deep of a level in a workshop or with my clients, because obviously not many people are willing to go on that gut journey. Gut journey usually take a real tough sort of mentality to go ahead, because it usually require not 1 quarter type of conversation. Usually it's a multi-quarters type conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again, everyone. See you soon.
Yeah.
And live a long and healthy life. Bye-bye.
Enjoy life.
Bye-bye.
Bye.